You've been hunting for that extra punch in your home audio system, right? Maybe you've already got decent bookshelf speakers, but the bass just never fills the room the way you want when you're watching a movie or cranking up a playlist. I'm going to walk through a little board that promises to turn a pair of regular speakers into a full-on 2.1 setup, and by the end of this video you'll have a good feel for whether it actually delivers the deeper, tighter low end you've been after. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the HNJCHE 2-in-1 subwoofer amp board is built around the TPA3116D2 chip, which is the same Class D silicon you'll find in many reputable home theater receivers. That means you're getting a highly efficient design that can push quite a bit of power without getting hot enough to worry about a constantly running fan. The board comes in a pair of modules, one rated at 50 watts and the other at 100 watts, so you can tailor the output to the size of the room you're treating. If you've got a modest living room, the 50-watt board will likely be enough to give you that feel in your chest bass without overdriving your small subwoofer. In a larger open-plan space, the 100-watt version can fill the area with low-frequency energy while still staying cool. One of the biggest practical benefits is the built-in equalizer. It's not a fancy graphic interface, just a few knobs you can turn to boost or cut the bass, mid-range, and treble. For a gamer, that means you can dial in a tighter kick for explosions and still keep dialogue clear. For a music lover, you can smooth out any harshness in a bass-heavy track without having to plug in an external parametric EQ. I've tried it with a few different playlists, and the ability to tweak the response on the fly makes the whole setup feel a lot more adaptable than a set-and-forget sub. Another perk is how easy it is to integrate with existing gear. The board accepts a standard 12V DC power supply, something you probably already have lying around for other projects. You just plug the supply into the power-in terminals, hook up your subwoofer to the speaker outputs, and connect the line in from your source. There's no need for a bulky external power brick or a complicated wiring diagram, which is a relief if you're not an electronics wizard. The ergonomic layout of the connectors means you can get everything hooked up in a matter of minutes, and the board stays flat against the back of a cabinet or a DIY enclosure. Real-world use also shows the advantage of the dual-channel design. Because the board can drive both the left and right channels of a stereo speaker pair and a dedicated sub, you get a true 2.1 experience rather than the pseudo-surround you sometimes hear when people just add a mono sub to a stereo amp. When I paired the board with a pair of bookshelf speakers and a small 8-inch sub, the front speakers stayed crisp while the sub handled all the heavy bass, creating a clear separation that makes movie soundtracks and EDM drops feel much more immersive. The compact size is worth noting, too. At just a few inches square, the board won't dominate your shelf space, and the low-profile heatsink keeps the unit from becoming a hotspot. That's especially handy if you're building a sleek media console where aesthetics matter as much as performance. The board also has a built-in protection circuit that guards against short circuits and overtemperature, which gives you a little peace of mind if you ever unplug and replug things while the system is running. Now, no product is perfect, so let's talk about what I've noticed that could be a downside for some users. One thing to keep in mind is that while the Class D chip is efficient, you still need a decent quality power supply to avoid any humming or noise that can creep in from a cheap adapter. I tested a generic 12V charger and got a faint hiss when the volume was cranked up. Switching to a regulated supply cleared that up. Another minor quibble is that the board only comes in a single color, plain black, so if you're aiming for a color-coordinated build, you'll need to paint or conceal it. Finally, the board's output is solid, but if you're expecting it to drive a massive 15-inch sub in a large home,